Hello, hello, hello. Today is Thursday, August 21st, and it's another session of Let's Talk Power Live. I am so excited to be here. I am Dr. Tanji. I am your host of Let's Talk Power Live. Looks like we're having a little bit of a thing going on. I'm not quite sure. We'll see. Anyway, welcome to another session of Let's Talk Power Live, where we talk about power in education in real and concrete ways. I'm excited and thrilled to be here with you. Let's start off with being thankful. It's Thursday. I am thankful, just to be here. I'm excited. We have a lot talking about, really enjoying the opportunity to go back to my quote unquote roots in education and uplift and lift out and call out middle school. It's an important time, and often it gets short-sighted attention. So I thought it'd be good to bring it back. So I'm thankful for the opportunity to bring back middle school as a conversation. So let's start talking about who we are and what we do. Like I said, I'm Dr. Tanji, and I am the CEO and principal consultant of Liaison Educational Partners, where we focus on the intersection of curriculum, instruction, and culture. And we do all of that through the lens of power. And we employ a 5-phase process because we're educators and we are learners. And we want to learn, we want to help plan, we want to get into the implementation and application. Then we want to step back and look at what's working and what's not through our evaluation phase, and then into integration. How do we pull it all together to make sure what works stays and what doesn't gets worked on? That is who we are, and that is what we do. Every week, I ask you the same question. Do you have your copy of understanding your instructional power? This is the basis for why we talk about power and why I talk about power in education. There's a link right here to get a copy of your book, and there's also that QR code there for you to scan. Please go ahead, get your copy of the book. It is like toothpaste. Once your eyes are opened to the way power is operating in your learning environment, it's going to be very hard to put those ideas back into a box. So go ahead, get your copy of the book. Let us know how you are using the tools inside the text. What are you learning about your own instruction? What are you learning about your colleagues and how it's impacting your students? School year is underway in a lot of places and about to start in others. This is the perfect time to really get into how you understand your power and how you use it to shape student learning. So go ahead, get your copy of the book. People ask me, what is instructional power? This is how I define instructional power, so you can see it. It can be understood as an educator's use of their state, district, and building ascribed job-related authority to afford or constrain a student's access to learning. Want to clear something up for you. When I say educator, I mean a district leader, a state leader, a building leader, or the classroom leader. So I take a much broader definition when we talk about what an educator and who an educator is. So that's how I define instructional power. Would love to know how you define it. Maybe that's something we can talk about. How do you define instructional power? And last couple of weeks, we have a few more days left in order to get your support. We have an opportunity, my ed friends and I have another opportunity to present and share our work at South by Southwest 2026. Going to invite you and ask for your support. Go ahead and scan this QR code. There's also the link where you can get it. Our title is Educational Leadership in Today's Political Climate. There's a lot going on. And what we do is we look at it from a global perspective. It's very easy to have a narrow idea and put everything into the American or the Western context. Our particular session is designed to have a much broader perspective and a broader sense. So go ahead, scan the QR code and vote for us. We look forward to being able to share again this year. Your help got us in there last year. So looking forward to this year again. All right. So we've been talking about middle school. Middle schoolers need special attention. My personal story about middle school, it was tough. I had transferred into a middle school in the middle of the year, and it was into a very closed and small environment. And not only was it in the middle of the year, it was also as an eighth grader. So I had already 2 years of middle school in another district in a different part of my state, and moved into this other school district. And it was in a place where all of the students pretty much grew up with each other. And so they were not necessarily feeling having a new person come in. And it was hard. I will say that I was not treated very well, which socially. In my classes, I was treated fine. I was a great student, got great grades. I participated, all of the things that the adults appreciated, which happened to turn out to be the things that the kids did not. So it was kind of hard. It was definitely one of those places where the social aspects of it were more challenging than I had expected them to be. And I think that's the way it is for a lot of young people. Middle school is that place where there's so much happening in the brain. The brain is literally rewiring and restructuring itself during that time. And young people are really experimenting with their identity, who they are, what fits, what doesn't fit, who they want to be. And we are asking them to really narrow down their lives. We're asking them to focus on very concrete, narrow things, when what the brain needs is expanse. And the brain needs more than what we are asking of them. And that makes the time really hard. And also, what makes it a challenge is it is focused on the assessments. And I believe in assessments. Let me tell you what, right now, I believe assessments matter. But I believe the right kind of assessments done the right way at the right time for the right reasons is what really matters more. And a lot of times the young people at this age feel as though assessments are just there for the sake of being there. And we can have that conversation. And there is probably some truth to that for lots of different reasons. But our middle schoolers definitely need more than what we are giving. And so that's why I wanted to spend some time and really talk about who they are and what they deserve. So what's happening now? In case you missed the last couple of weeks, here's what we're talking about. The potential here is so high, but patience is what's really essence, right? The patience that's necessary is essential to riding. I keep saying riding the roller coaster, right? Middle schooler is like riding a roller coaster. You never know who you're going to get when, but the potential is huge. So I want to lean into the patience part. I just mentioned developmentally, they are in a critical window. They really are in this middle space, right? They're not small high schoolers and they're not big elementary school kids. They are young people who are developing an adolescent brain. And the adolescent brain is undergoing tremendous growth and change. Like I said, it's still under construction. It really is. And then authentic student agency is a power tool. I talk about power and I give power tools. A power tool for middle schoolers is the educator. And in this case, it's the building educator, the building leader, and the leader in the classroom, the teacher. It is their ability to understand what agency is, what it looks like, feels like, and sounds like in their building, so that everybody in the building is on the same page about it. And I offer a tool, which I'm going to make available later on in our time today, to really get the power dynamics right because of what's happening with young people in their brains and their social aspects. There is a heightened level of pushing back and forth, a heightened level of questioning, more challenge to the adult. That's part of it. Unfortunately, we find during this time that the discipline, and not really even the discipline, because we're not building discipline, we are punishment. We are punishing young people. Discipline is a skill that we want to build. And maybe I'll do a session on discipline. Yeah, on discipline versus punishment. What we're doing is punishing young people. And what we have to do is help them become disciplined young people. So during this time, when they are shape shifting and their brains are moving and growing, you're going to have a lot more pushback. You're going to have a lot more challenge. The patience that comes in is really important. The knowledge comes in about who they are and what they're undergoing is also important. But the agency is going to really help support the reduction in the need or the thought about the need to send a kid to the office, take a kid out of a classroom, all of the strategies adults use when it comes to trying to get kids back on track behaviorally. So that's kind of what the student agency is all about. But there has to be building wide understanding. What I found is there really, really isn't. Anywho, let's keep going. When we talk about what that means, and the tool that I have available will definitely support educators at the leader side, at the building leader level, really structure what agency can look like and feel like in their buildings in a real authentic way. So what we're finding is that during this time, there's a lot of instructional painting with a broad brush. We have a one size fits all approach to educating our young people at this age. It simply does not work. Young people at any age need a more differentiated approach, but at this age, it's even more critical that the instruction be a lot more varied and developmentally broad and interesting because of what we know regarding the way in which motivation and engagement happens at this age. Painting the instruction with a broad brush has human capital impact. So what are some of the risks? First off, there's going to be an academic risk for that. And what we find is that there's a lot of academic variability. It's huge, right? So the academic variability, middle schoolers can vary as much as 3 to 5 years in their developmental reading, cognitive, emotional, and social. So that one size fits all leaves so many bored and others overwhelmed, right? Reading and math levels, the academic range again, right? It spans 6, 8 levels, which makes differentiation crucial because you can have an 8th grader who operates in math like a 3rd or 4th grader. What are you going to do? But that same kid can read at a much higher level. So what are you going to do? Right? The differentiated approaches affirm their identities, it affirms their interests, and it gives them a sense of motivation and a sense of engagement. It heightens it. So that the range is so wide, 3 to 5 years in range in ability, which means you can have one child whose range in one subject might be several grades below where they are. And that same child can have a wider, higher range in another area because their interests might be different. Therefore, it is critical to differentiate instruction. One of the ways I would differentiate instruction is one, you start by grouping. We know about grouping, right? We are educators. We know about grouping. We can have homogeneous groups. We can have heterogeneous groups. And we can we can do both, right? We can do all of those all at the same time. And within your grouping, within the way you organize the work, you can have multiple layers inside a session, in a learning session. You can have a classroom where you're working on, let me see. Oh, yeah, good one. I had this one lesson one time where it was centers, and people don't do centers in middle school the way they often do them in elementary. Centers in middle school are fantastic. That is a power tool, that is a power move, and it makes differentiation even more enriching because you can have music in one station that is tied to your thematic unit. So it can be music of the times. You can have them reading short passages of the time. You can have them experiencing writing of the time. So you can do a centered approach that allows them to experience a lot of different elements of your curriculum, all while attending to the standards and making sure the content by way of your curriculum is also developed at a high and delivered at a high level. It heightens their motivation and increases their participation and engagement in the work. So it's really, really important to think about the ways in which we can differentiate. We know that we can give them different leveled books. Leveled books is one, different lexile levels of books. It's one area. But in terms of the work itself, a center approach can be super exciting and really change the state of the learning environment at any one time. You don't want to do it every day, but something that can make the learning environment different and unique is always going to re-engage the brain. So what does it look like, right? So we talked about that. It's really, really critical to have and adopt this differentiated approach to ensuring that students are staying actively engaged. And engagement is not something that you see because engagement really is happening inside the brain. What we actually see is engagement that is coming out as participation in something, which means you don't see whether or not a student is engaged in what you're saying. What you watch them do is participate in something, and we make participation a proxy for engagement. Sometimes it is, sometimes it is not. Kids are very good at playing the game of school, and we want to make sure we help them play it if they're going to play it, but they're playing the right game. So it's not about more work. It really is about opening doors. It is about opening more doors for more young people to meet standards, exceed standards, and become the learners that they all need to be and that we honestly believe they can be. So when we talk about the motivation and engagement, we got to understand like engagement drops significantly around fifth grade and to about 50% in middle school. So if half of your students are engaged, then where are the other half? And I know, recent states are getting into the business of banning cell phones and changing their environment by using cell phones as a proxy for making the environment better. And I can say this as a person who's been in a middle school with cell phones, I've seen it, and without cell phones. All of it, whether you take cell phones out of a building or not, the quality of the instruction is going to determine whether or not the young people in the building are actively participating and authentically engaged. You can remove every single cell phone from your building, and students will still not be engaged. So while you might find that the culture shifts because cell phones are no longer allowed inside classrooms, if the culture inside the classroom and building are not the kind that are really engaging young people, after a while, you're still going to experience a negative school environment, even if you take out all of your cell phones. That's my soapbox. Be clear. Cell phones are not absolutely the enemy, but we need to have a bigger question about whether or not, when we talk about instruction, if removing the cell phones from the instructional side are the thing that's driving it. So that's one thing that's really important. And then the students at this age, they crave curiosity. They crave it. But 83% of middle schoolers say, you know what? I don't have an opportunity for that. So only 17%, let's think about this from the number side. Only 17% of middle schoolers report they have an opportunity to explore and be curiosity driven in their learning. 17%. 83% do not. That is something to be asking a question about. What are we doing when it comes to curiosity driven? What does it say about our curriculum? Remember, I said liaison sits at the intersection of the curriculum, of the instruction, and of the culture. If only 17% of the population of any middle school is allowing for curiosity-driven learning, what is happening in the curriculum? What kind of curriculum do you have? What is the basis of the instructional framework? What is the nature of the culture? Those are 3 areas of deep examination to dispel and get past this 83% of middle schoolers not feeling like they have curiosity-driven opportunities for learning. And it will definitely get you above your 50% of students not feeling engaged and motivated to do their work. So what is the human cost here? There is a human cost of ignoring differentiation. So first things first, the human cost here is, without it, students are disengaging quickly. You're going to have higher absenteeism, you're going to have higher punishment issues, and you're going to have widening academic gaps. That's one. Your teachers are going to burn out because they're going to be forced to teach to the middle. Without differentiation, you are reaching 1/3 of your classroom population. You're reaching the third of your population where that curriculum and that instruction matches. The 1/3 that may be above you, they're done. The 1/3 that might be behind you, they can't be there because the information does not match them. And leaders risk focusing on compliance as opposed to real learning and missing a critical opportunity. And that's huge. So there really is a human cost to this. You want to make sure that differentiation is a critical aspect of the instructional framework. But again, that takes planning. From the leader side, it takes planning. It means as you develop your strategic plans, not only do you have a plan to hit numbers, hitting numbers is the outcome, that's the goal. The question about hitting the numbers is, how do you do it? Right? What's the instructional framework that you use that's really going to ensure that young people are with you, right? That they're there, that they're engaged, that they're motivated to be a part of the learning experience. I want you to think about this. If you're at a place as an adult, you do not stay any place. You don't have to if where you are isn't meeting your needs. Think about that. You as an adult would not be someplace for 6 hours if what you were doing while you were there was not serving you well. But you are an adult, so you have the agency and you exercise it through empowered action to get yourself out of a place that isn't serving you well. Our young people don't have that same ability. They cannot remove themselves like we as adults can, but they do. They do remove themselves. They remove themselves by being absent, physically absent. But they also remove themselves by being mentally absent. I want you to think about a classroom where 3 minutes into the classroom, somebody is trying to go to the bathroom. Maybe they still use lockers in your location. Oh, can I go to my locker? They use escapism to remove themselves mentally from the learning space. 6 hours a day in a place where they don't have control as to whether or not they're there. We want to make sure that we are using the instructional frameworks that make it so that they want to be there. And I'm not talking about edutainment. That's not what I mean. I'm very clear about direct, specific instructional frameworks like differentiated practices that allow students to have their academic needs met as much as is humanly possible within the confines of the day. And if we ignore it, we run the risk of student disengagement, educator burnout, and the adherence to compliance over actual learning. So it's really important that the human cost is there. So what's the leader lens? The leader lens here is you get what you look for. You get what you look for and you get what you plan for. If you plan for authentic educator instructional frameworks that allow students to have curiosity about their learning, you're going to get that. If you are that leader that leans into your power and checkboxing, you're going to get that. But your environment's you get the environment you plan for. I will say that. As a leader, you get the environment you're planning for. So it's really important to think about. And so I want to give you some power moves. I'm going to give you 3 power moves today. Your power move number 1 is honor the range. Want you to honor the range, right? Acknowledge the wide developmental range. Design instruction that gives multiple pathways and look for evidence of that range so that you know how to meet it. That is power move number 1. Really look for that range. Power move number 2, instruction equals belonging. Okay? Students decide whether school is for them. They do. They do. They decide. We want to help them know that school actually is for them. We want to help them decide that. And then embed that disciplinary literacy. Disciplinary literacy moves really help young people get into being the kind of learner each discipline requires. If I'm in math, I'm in pieces of math, right? Geometry and trigonometry and calculus and algebra. Those are all thinking structures. In literacy, in my English classroom, those are thinking structures. In my different sciences, biology and chemistry and physics, those all have disciplinary thinking structures. And we want to make sure that young people are getting the kind of literacy instruction that it helps them lean into that. And then for leaders, want you to prioritize rigor and authentic instruction and planning over box checking and compliance. So that's your leader lens, power move number 2, instruction equals belonging. And then power move number 3, agency in action. You must build authentic student agency. It must be planned for, it must be authentic. Everybody must be on the same page about it. It is critical. Agency fosters motivation and engagement. It fosters motivation and engagement. Leaders, going to invite you to use that leader tool. I'm going to show you. I showed it to you last week and the week before. I'm going to invite you to use that that tool to make sure that your environment is set up for agency so that when young people exercise it, they don't get punished because an adult is misreading it. And that happens a lot, that adults misread the enactment of student agency. Therefore, the tool is going to really help you move forward in a meaningful way. So here is the power tool. What is it going to help you do? It's going to help for timing. It's perfect guide to get your grade bands ready to go, right? It's a capacity building tool. You're going to know who's ready, who's not, what kind of resources, what kind of training is necessary. And it's going to revolutionize your culture. Let's see, do I have my look? Yep, here it is. There is the power tool link. And I'm going to make this also available to you on LinkedIn. If you are watching and you want to get it, but you can't see the link here, please let me know, direct message me, or you can check us out on our website. Let me know how to get this tool to you. And so let's recap. Middle schoolers are often instructionally underserved. Differentiation is critical to foster their agency development and increase motivation and engagement. And then leaders and educators, balance and belonging. I said that last week. I'm saying it again this week. You got to balance the belonging and the education. And so again, want to introduce you to Instructional Power 101. This is our brand new course. It is on demand, 7 modules, steps, ideas, tools, and strategies to revolutionize your culture based upon the book, Understanding Your Instructional Power. Go ahead, get the link, get started on your learning and self-directed moves towards understanding your own power. And then again, looking ahead, we're going to be looking more at the diversity in our middle schoolers next week. We are going to be probably in September. I'm looking forward to it. Probably late September. You're going to have some guests joining us to talk about power as well. And remember, please go ahead, scan the QR code, help us get our session accepted at South by Southwest 2026. Get your copy of the book. You want to get your book. And when you get it, go ahead and take a picture of you and your book together and then tag us. Last but not least, and I forgot to ask you, are you subscribed to this channel? At Let's Talk Power Live, have you subscribed? Please go ahead and subscribe. Hit the like button. Subscribe, hit the like button, and then share this with somebody else. We know how algorithms work. We want to have conversations about power in education in real, authentic, and operational ways. So subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share this with somebody else. And then thank you. We will see you next week for another session of Let's Talk Power Live.